Hi, this is Tutor from Uplatz, and this is seventh module of Salesforce learning session. And if you want to know more about Uplatz, you can contact Uplatz by this mentioned email and phone number, and you can also log on to uplatz.com to know more about Uplatz. And today we will talk about security model. We'll do a small demo of the same, and we'll go through a real-time example as well. Security applies on the object and on the records created on that object, and it also applies to the application. As in our previous module, you guys have seen, if you guys have seen our previous module, then then we have created an application, and we created objects, and in those objects we created fields, and we also created records on those objects. For example, we created an application named Uplatz University, and when we created this application, we gave we gave the profile name, so that only those user holding this profile would be able to see that application. So let's see this in real time. I just log into Salesforce. I have my credentials. I clicked on login button. We'll just do a quick recap. We will edit the application, and we will see there will be a list of profiles, and users who are having that particular profile will be able to see this university Uplatz application. If we want to see that application, we can always click on App Launcher, and then we can select our application here. Now we want to see the profiles who can see Uplatz University. To do that, we go to Quick Find box. We'll go to App Manager. Here from App Manager, we need to search for our application here. Our name of the application is Uplatz University. We click on this drop down. We click on Edit. Okay, so here we have this option named User Profile. We click on this user profile, and as of now, only the system administrator can see this profile. And when we create a free developer edition of Salesforce, then by default a user gets created as per the data we entered at the time of creating Salesforce account. And by default, we are the system administrator. And other than system administrator, there are plenty of profiles here, like for sales profile is their support profile, community login, user. There, these all are standard profiles created by Salesforce. We didn't created any of the profile. So suppose if we have to, we are creating a university application. So here profiles will be like principal profile, then a professor profile, then student profiles. So here, if we want to hide this application from student profile, then we we won't add that student profile here. We will create our custom profiles as well in our later module. But as of now, to understand the security is, um, here we give the profiles. These profiles at the right side can access this application that we have created. So now, other than application, we do give access to the fields. When we were creating fields at the time of creating field, if you remember, we have an option of we can see the list of profiles who, so only users having that profile would be able to see that field, and otherwise that particular field will be visible. And the third thing is the record. um, the third thing is a record. For to I'll give a quick example from an Excel sheet. Here we go. Okay, so of username. Suppose these are our user and profile. We have these users. For example, we have a user named John, Smith, James, Ron. Okay, so we have four users, and they have created um, they have created, suppose, two records in our Salesforce org. Smith has created three records, James created two, and Ron created one. Now, as per the security model, what we can do is we can set the security so that John won't be able to see Smith's record and vice versa. John would be able to see records created by himself, not the records created by others. He won't be able to see the records created by rest of the users. It's up to the requirement how we want to manage the data in Salesforce. We can set the data in such a way so that John would be able to see the data of rest of the users, or John can read the data of other users but won't be able to edit others data. um, or John can see the data created by himself. He won't be able to create data by other users, and same applies with the other users. John would be able to see his data, Smith would be able to see his data, and so on. And when we set the organization wide default settings, or we call OWD settings, or then we OWD setting, then we have option is public. If we set OWD setting for student object, if we set our organization wide default settings to public, then all the users can see each other's data. The second option we can do is public read only. If I do public read only, then what happen is user can see each other's data but won't be able to edit the data of other users. For example, John has created two records in Salesforce. He will be able to edit or update or delete his data, but he can see the data of Smith, James, and Ron, but won't be able to edit or delete that. The third option we have here is private. If we mark organization wide default settings to private, then the users won't be able to see other users data. There are some exceptions. We will be talking those exceptions as well, but as of now, if we mark the OWD setting is private, then John won't be able to see Smith's data, and vice versa. We have profiles in a security. We manage the data as per the profiles. We manage the data as per profiles. In profiles, a user has the level of access. Suppose there are five objects in our application that we have created, student application. We have five objects, and if we want to show first three objects to one profile and two objects to second profile, then we can manage as per the profile. At the profile level, we will mention what data can user see. So we can mention profile is basically what user can access and see in the Salesforce org. Okay, so we have profiles, and then we have permission set. We will be creating permission set in our later module, but as of now, we will understand what permission set is. Okay, so suppose on our student object, we gave read only access to some profiles, but in that profile there is one particular user who wants to who needs edit access. If we mark edit access to his profile, then all the users having that profile will be able to see the data. Will get the edit access, but we want to provide access to only a particular users. As so at that time, permission set is a way to add something to a profile on a user level. If you're still having confusions about permission set, then don't worry, we will be creating permission sets in our later module. And OWD, we have seen that OWD, what are the options available on OWD. We will do that. We will set the OWD setting of student object in few minutes. And then we have role hierarchy. We will talk about role hierarchy in a moment. Then we have criteria based manual sharing. There are options. There are sharing rules in Salesforce. If we want to share some particular data when a certain condition true, then we can do that as well. We'll see that also. Now let's set security level access in org object and record. We'll go to our in the quick find box. I'll search for sharing settings. Click on sharing setting. Okay, in sharing setting, I'll just click on this edit button first. Okay, so here we will look for the object that we have created. For example, we'll see the student. Currently, it's public read write. So if we have 5 users in our org, then all 5 users can see each other's data as of now. So if I click on this drop down, then what are the options we have that we already discussed on in this Excel sheet? I have mentioned public read only, and private, and what is the purpose of all this. So as of now, I'll mark student to private. Then now user won't be able to see each other's data. So as of now, we have created 5 objects. I'll mark all of them to private. Okay, I click on save. Now we got this message: one or more sharing operation has been initiated. See below or additional details. Certain operation may not be available. Okay, earlier, if we have earlier the settings, OWD settings for all the objects were public read write access. All the users can see each other's data and can edit each other's data. But as of now, users cannot see each other's data, and also they cannot delete if they cannot see. Okay, so we have certain sharing rules as well. As per the object, we have lead sharing, account sharing. If we have just changed the OWD settings. So I'll just give a quick refresh, or it'll take another couple of minutes. So we cannot create sharing rule if the OWD setting of an object is a public read write. So users can see each other's data, they can update each other's data. So there is no point to create a sharing rule. Sharing rule is to provide other user access to the data. So already users have access to data, so there is no point to create a sharing rule. So sharing rule takes place only when we have organization wide default setting set to private or public read only. Okay, if we now go to student. Okay, now here we are at the student level. We have student sharing rules. We'll see a little bit about sharing rules. We will be creating sharing rules in our coming modules, but as of now, we'll just take a quick look about of student sharing rules. Here I gave rule label, then we have a unique rule name. Then here we can see we want to share the data to, as per the roles, we can share this to the roles. Suppose here we already have roles. Suppose all the records owned by VP marketing, we want to share it with the users having role of channel sales team. I save it. I give a level of access. They can read only or write only, and we are done with the sharing rule. Now all the records of VP marketing, now all the users having channel sales team would be able to see that. So if this thing is confusing you, don't take tension. We will be doing that. We'll be creating sharing rule as once we will done with the role hierarchy. We'll create our role hierarchy. Okay, so I hit the cancel button. And one more thing I would like to add here. I just click on this edit button here. It's still loading. Okay. Okay, so here student, I have private, and this checkbox is by default is true. I can check this false as well. The purpose of this field is if we see the label grant access using hierarchies. So what does that mean is in an organization, there is a hierarchy. Some is at the top, then other this data flows. For example, and if we talk about our application, then in our role hierarchy, there would be at the top principal. And then we have HODs, head of the departments. Then we have professors, and at the last we have students. So this is our hierarchy uh, of a particular institute. And at the principal, we can say principal or director, principal or director. So now, if student creates data, all the if we have created a user whose role is student, then that particular then the records created by that particular user those records will be visible to up in the hierarchy. Like students records created by student role will be visible to professor, and same with the HODs, and then the director would be able to see all the records. But and but professors records created by professor won't be visible to down the hierarchy. Records created by professor won't be visible to student, records created by HOD won't be visible to professor, and so on. But the vice versa is possible. From bottom to up, the data sharing is possible. If student creates the data, that data would be visible to professors, and the professor creates the data, that data will be visible to HODs. So this is a hierarchy of our university application. As of now, I hit the cancel button. Okay, we set the we know when we create a application, we give profile name so that only the authorized users, only the required users can see or and access that application. We do security check at the application level. We do that at object level, and we do that on fields level, and at the record, how we save the data, how we manage the security at the record level. We have just seen that in organization wide default. If it's private, then user won't be able to see each other's data. Then we have a public read only. Then we have public read write. Okay, now let's talk about a real time example of OWD, organization wide defaults. So now in our example, let's assume bank operating in a large building. Employees, existing customer, new customer, and other administrative personnel visit the bank. All employees should have valid identification to authenticate at the security gate. All existing customers to use security card and entry the security gate. There are different floors of different departments in bank, and entry is restricted to employees and existing customers. Not each and every user who is visiting the bank can go everywhere he wants. Customer may hold savings and checking account, credit card, and bank locker account. All customers can enter the bank premises or level access. Only customers who hold a locker will get access to locker room, that is a object level access. If I have a locker, I can access to my locker. I cannot open any other locker in the bank. And if I have access to my locker, and I can that's example of object level access. And if I have object level access, I can view and edit the contents. And same in a case of bank, if I have access to the locker, I can add or remove the contents or jewels I have on my locker. Customer may not have access to create a new locker, but the banker may have. So certain users will have the access in Salesforce. Certain users will have access to create the records, and some users will have only to read that data. Customers can only view the contents, access the contents, jewels of their own locker, and not others. That is OWD settings. We have discussed the OWD settings already. Okay, now level of access, org level access are bank hours, security check, and object level are locker room, record level are your own room, my own locker. So once a user has a locker room access, it means he has object level access, and he has and once he's in the locker room, he has access to his locker. He can see in if we talk about in Salesforce, one a user has access to one object, and then he must have has access to the data created by himself, then he can see that data. So we have org level at bank hours security check. If we see the bank hours here example, I quickly go to the profiles here. As of now, I created this Salesforce org. I registered for it, and once we register for the free developer edition, by default we get the Salesforce administrator profile. So currently I am the user having administrator system administrator profile. I click on S and I go to system administrator. You can if you have created developer edition, you are a system administrator, and you can see all this data. We will talk about this data, uh, but as of now, we will see login hours. Here we can set the login hours. If I click edit button here I can mention here, like on Sundays a user can access, if I for example, I'm not going to save this, but for example, it's a university application, so it will start from 9 a.m. to, say, at 2 p.m. It's a university application, so at 9 to 2 on Sunday, if I add the same to all the below fields, then on that particular days user will be able to log in. If I set here, if I want all day access, then I can give 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. Then user can access the application all day long. But as of now, there is only one user, so there is no point to have this login hours. But we can set the login hours. For example, on 9 a.m. I give Monday, and I give 9 a.m. to Tuesday till Friday. I give 9 a.m. Okay, for Sundays, let's say I'll keep none, and here I give 9 to 2 p.m. and for all of the days, for 5 days, users can access the Salesforce application. They now, once I'll hit the save, add all the required data, then user won't be able to log into Salesforce on Sundays and Saturdays. They can only log in from Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 9 p.m. to 2 p.m. Okay, so right now there are not many users, so I can just cancel it. So you can try to understand all the things here. Otherwise, we will be talking about one by one in our later modules. We have login hours, we have login IP ranges as well. We can set the IP ranges so that any unauthorized person won't be able to log in to Salesforce. And here at the profile, we have the level of access to the objects. As a system administrator, if we talk about the custom objects only, so we have these are five custom objects here. I have read, create, edit, delete, access, then view all and modify all. Um, if I uncheck one of the fields, then suppose for students, if I uncheck this delete thing, the delete thing for student object, then I won't be able to delete records of student records created on student object. So we have read, create, edit, delete, and we have explicitly view all and modify all. Now the question is, if we have the read access, then what is the purpose of giving view all? And if we have create and edit, delete separately, then what is the purpose of giving modify all? So the difference is read, create, edit, delete. This CRUD permissions with the view all and modify all is users having view all permission can see the data of other users regardless of the OWD settings. So it is It is really important thing to keep in mind. So users having view all access would be able to see the data of other users, and same with the case of modify all. So for example, I have mentioned create here. I have given create access so that student can, if I give create and edit access, then user can create records and edit his records. I won't be able to second users records. There are user one and user two, both have create edit access. They can edit the records they have created, not each other's record. But once I'll give modify all permission, then user may may modify each other's records. So this is one of the important thing to keep in mind when we talk about security. So as of now, you can try to understand other things here on the profiles. If you get it, then it's well and good. Otherwise, we will be discussing everything in our later modules. Till the time, you just practice what we have discussed today. And thank you so much. Have a happy learning.